Hello, 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 hello. How's everyone doing today? Let me know that you can hear me. Let me just do a test. I see some of you are already here, and I certainly appreciate that. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It is so good to be here and to have all of you. Christine, what's going on? Jay Jammin, glad to have you. Appreciate you two being here. And those of you who are here but have not have not put a message in the chat, please do so. Let me know. Say hello to us. Add your comments. Christine and Jay Jammin, are you able to hear me? Just want to make sure that we are good, that our sound is good. I know, Christine. I always ask you this, and I'm sorry. I'm old. I guess I'm getting old. You're in Arizona. Just want to make sure. Let me know that you are in JJM. You can hear me. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you, Christine. You are in Arizona. Or is it someone else? Maybe Sharon. But let me know, Christine, where you are. JJM, and where are you joining us from? Just asking, just interested. Uh, but while I wait for you guys to respond, I am going to do what I always do, which is begin by saying thank you and much appreciation to two wonderful people who make this program possible. And that is, first of all, Taisha Essick, who's out there somewhere in the universe doing her thing, but certainly appreciate that. I always said thank you to her for everything she's done and her continuing support of me in this program. Certainly appreciate that. And also, last but certainly not least, is my wonderful wife, my life partner, Salima. Really appreciate her and her support for what I'm doing here. So thank you so much. Texas guys, good evening. Glad to have you. H Town, so you're in Houston. Okay, JJ, I appreciate it. I think you've clearly, I mean, obviously you said that before, and I just keep forgetting, but appreciate it. Um, yeah, so I am glad to have you all here today. And so what I wanted to do today is that I want to have the program going forward. I want us to have more. I'm not saying that we haven't had, but I want us to have more substantive and maybe even, I guess, a good word, a better word, maybe objective conversations about some of the topics. Because I want to give good information. I want to give objective information when we do this. So today is sort of an attempt to start moving in that direction somewhat. We're still going to do, some of the things that we always do, and I always want to keep this informal and loose and enjoyable because I think that's the best way that we interact with each other. And I don't want this to be stress. There's enough stress in all of our lives. However, I wanted to kind of move in a direction that is more objective, more fact based, more information based, and so that's where we are today. So what I thought we would talk about today is there any real, or I cross out the word real and use the word objective or empirical evidence for the Abrahamic God? And so there's a couple of caveats to this. First of all, um, when I say objective evidence, I don't mean what I often hear from people when I engage in these conversations, which is they basically discount or try to disprove every other option, and then end up saying, "Well, if A, B, and C is not the answer, or you don't know the answer as a non-believer, then the answer must be God," and that's called God of the gaps. And so we want to try to avoid that. So basically, God of the gaps is where if I don't know the answer, you don't know the answer, and A, B, and C is not the most plausible answer, then the answer must be God. And so we want to try to avoid that because that's not objective evidence. Christine's back. Okay, Christine, I was asking where you're joining us from, and I don't know why I keep thinking Arizona, but I think I might have you mixed up with. I think Sharon is from is in Arizona, but let me know where you're from. So that's all. So glad to have you back. So anyway, so today, is there any objective evidence for the Abrahamic God? And so the first thing we're going to do today is that we're going to do sort of a general covering of this. I'm going to go over some popular, what people consider to be popular evidence for God, and then uh, in later in future broadcasts, we're going to address some of those issues, all those issues, maybe two or three at a time, in a lot more detail. We're going to give you the information on both sides, what's been proven and not proven, disproven. So we'll do all of that. Oh, Christine's in H Town too. Okay, cool. Houston in the house. And so that's what we're going to do. So today is going to be a little bit lighter than I guess what we'll be doing in the future, but we'll kind of cover some of these. And then again, another reason why I'm doing this is because I oftentimes get people who hear this, who hear these broadcasts, and accuse me of attacking organized religion, attacking Christianity, um, making a mockery of it, those type things. And so I want to just be a little bit more fact based and evidence based when we do these things. I'm still going to do what I always done, and this will eventually probably evolve into one of those conversations, but that's fine. So, what I always tell you guys how I came up with these topics. So this topic came up. Someone sent me. So I I have a friend. I wish she would join us, but she is a very devout believer. Her and I went to college together. We're cool. She follows me on social media. She's always the first one to comment when I make a post that's anti-religious or anti-Christianity, as she says. She's always challenging me or trying to correct me. Right? It never works because she's always wrong on this subject. But anyway, I admire the fact that she's devout and that she's determined. So she sent me a post of a guy. I think it was a Jamaican or African gentleman, older gentleman. I think it was a pastor or at least had some seminary or seminary related background, and he talked about four things that was concrete evidence that God existed, or that God exists, that Abrahamic God exists. And I told her that I had heard this guy before, and I had actually heard that video before. And I told her that the things that he had mentioned had either A, been disproven, or B, was not objective evidence. And so they got me to thinking, in all of my years, even as a Christian, and in the last now almost 10 years as a non-believer, I have yet to see any objective, provable, testable evidence for the existence of the Abrahamic God. So as we go through the steps, we go through the stages, I think first of all, people who are trying to prove the existence of this Abrahamic God will first have to prove to non-believers that a entity that we define and describe as a God, a supernatural deity being exists. That's the first thing. And then secondly, they would have to prove that out of the 3,000 plus or 1,000, depending on where you look, 1,000 to one, let's just say 1,000 to 3,000 um, such deities that humanity has claimed since our existence has existed, that the Abrahamic God is the one. It is the only one, is the one that exists, and that this Abrahamic God exists. So those are the first two things I think that believers in this Abrahamic God would have to do. And so that never really happens. And so, but let's get into what some of the evidence that they come up with and how it plays out. So those of you who are on here, please chime in if you know of any such evidence, quote unquote evidence. Let us know, or chime in about some of the evidence that I'm getting ready to present. And again, this is very generalized, and so we're going to go into more detail over the next few weeks. We're going to take two or three of these at a time and really get into more of the nuts and bolts of it. This information came from I got it from a religious site. I can't remember the name of it. So already it's probably biased, but that's fine because I wanted to get it from their biased standpoint, um, and see what's out there about it. So the first, Christine said, I am still learning and I haven't found any except what Christians claim, but no real proof. Same thing here. And so we do this again because we want our people to start to think. It is not about, and trust me, and for people who will hear this later, this is not about whether you should believe or not believe per se. It is about if you do believe, why you believe. It is about those of us who don't believe or are questioning our faith or questioning our belief and have embarked on this journey. um, where's the evidence? Where's the objective evidence that we should believe? What is it that we should believe in? And if the evidence is not there, the objective evidence is not there, ask ourselves, why wouldn't an all-powerful, all-knowing God present evidence that would at least make us believe that He's there? Now, the first argument that I get from what I just said from most people is that if God presented Himself, then it would take away our options of not believing in Him. So I will quote Matt Dillahunty. I don't know if you guys know Matt Dillahunty, but Matt Dillahunty he runs a podcast. He's a former pastor, I think preacher. He is a 100% full fledged atheist. His show is hilarious, and I don't mind plugging in, other people's show. That's fine. You got more than enough time to watch everybody's show, but he is rather hardcore on people when they call in with information. But here's what he said about what I just said, and I certainly agree. Based on the information that we have, based on the description of this God in the Bible, based on events, based on things that He has done in the Bible, even if God came today and presented Himself and said, I am God, it would be hard, next to impossible for me to still follow this God because I think that this God, based on what I've seen in the Bible, is an inhumane psychopath, especially what you see in the Old Testament, but even in some of the New Testament. I think this God is an inhumane psychopath. So even if there was evidence, okay, this God exists, it still would be difficult for me to follow because you can say that you believe or that you follow, but in your heart is something totally different. And so it would be really hard for me to follow such a entity the way this entity is described in the Bible. So that's not a good reason why God wouldn't present Himself or whatever. And so secondly, why would you want someone to believe in you, worship you, state state their very existence on your existence, and then die and hope to spend the rest of their life in eternity with you without objective evidence that there is a you, there is a real you? So yes, those are a couple of things. Christine said, I'm sorry, Jay Hiru. How you doing, Jay? Can you give a brief explanation of objective evidence? Okay, good. That's a great question, Jay. Um, Objective evidence to me would be empirical evidence, objective evidence, evidence that is testable, that is provable, that is unbiased. Um, and let me give you an explanation, a better explanation. There are people out there who don't believe, or for whatever reason, some people who would question that gravity is real, right? And so, if I took 5 people who believe that gravity is real, and I took 5 people who did not believe that gravity is real, and I took them to the top of the Empire State Building, right? And I threw them off, or I pushed them off. All 10 of them would come to the realization, with the 5 that didn't believe, but all 10 of them would know for certain that gravity is real because the evidence would be there. And the evidence is there regardless of whether they believe it or not. And then evidence is testable, it's provable, um, and you can do it over and over and over and over and over again. There is so that's what I mean by that. That's proof. Thank you, Christine. So that's what I mean by that. So what one of the major pushbacks or arguments or evidence that we oftentimes see. Thanks, appreciate it, Jay. Thanks. I'm sorry. One of the things that we hear oftentimes when we ask this question, we get into these dialogues, is that people always bring up that creation demands a creator. That's one of the top ones, one of the first ones that people come up with as quote unquote evidence for there being a God. But in the statement itself, there are fallacies. The statement itself begs questions because you are assuming that what is are we I guess we are the creation or everything that exists. You're assuming that it has been created, by the definition created. You're also assuming that that thing that's here was put here, or like created by something else. An example that people use all the time is a watch and the watchmaker. You've heard this. Some of you've heard this before. The whole watchmaker. We see a watch, and we know that the watch is here because there was a watchmaker. Um, the problem with this is several fold. First of all, um, if you're talking about the creation of the earth, the universe, or whatever, we really don't know that the universe what hasn't always been here. That is as plausible, and even more plausible. It is as plausible or more plausible that the universe um, and the earth has existed, has always been here, as it is to believe that a man sitting in the sky created the earth and everything in 6 days and rested on the seventh day. It is as plausible or more plausible than that. Secondly, Big Bang and evolution and Big Bang does not say that something came from nothing. Understand what I'm saying? Now, I'm not a physicist. I'm not a astrophysicist or whatever. But I do know this about the Big Bang. I mean, yeah, the Big Bang theory. The Big Bang theory does not say something came from nothing. The Big Bang theory says that the universe is an expansion of what was already there. It is an expansion from what was already there. That's what the Big Bang actually says. So it's not you get these people saying, "Well, something can't come from nothing." Well, we're not saying that. So that's the first problem. The second problem is even if you tell me, or even if you're able to prove that something, the universe, Earth, was created, was made, you still haven't proven to me that what made it, and that what made it fits the definition of a God, and that God was your God, the Abrahamic God. So you see what I'm saying? So again, it's one of those things of uh, we're making up this. Well, if it's creation demands a creator, that's something that people necessarily made up. So that's not objective evidence of the Abrahamic God. It is not. It is not evidence of anything. It is pushback from someone who is not really knowledgeable of what the Big Bang. Yeah, what Big Bang says. So that's one that you hear oftentimes. Same thing. The second one I have here is life demands a life giver. It's same thing, similar to the creation demands a creator. Again, we can trace where we first became into existence as human beings, but what we don't know is how that began. We talk about one cell entities that evolved through evolution. People have varying views on that. To me, that is more plausible again than a man sitting in the sky and creating us, creating everything in 6 days. We have evidence, and again, we'll get into more of this as the weeks go by. But we have more objective evidence of evolution than we do creation. We have no objective evidence of creation, but we have evidence of evolution. Evolution is taught in every high school, every university, every college. The theory of evolution is taught. So yeah. So again, and then who is this life giver? Um, is this life giver a God as defined? Is this life giver your God? Is this life giver an alien? Is this life giver? It could be a number of things. It could be something that we're not able to even imagine at this point in life, right? It could be at the end of the day. I tell a lot of non-believers who may engage in these dialogues with believers, it is okay to say, I don't know. Saying I don't know is not synonymous with saying God did it, right? The reason why we have religion, and I've said this before, the reason why we have religion is because humanity could not say, I don't know. And so when things happen naturally in nature before we understood their origins, again, I talk about this, we talk about lightning, thunder, earthquakes, rain, or whatever. Before we understood that these were natural occurrences and had a natural origin to them, we created gods as the explanation because as humans, we could not say, I don't know. And so not being able to say, I don't know, is part of the reason why we have religion and why we have gods. So as a non-believer or someone who's questioning their faith or whatever category you put yourself in, it is perfectly fine to say, I don't know. And that is not an acknowledgement or an admittance or admitting that there is a God. Now, people can take it and run with it as they want to, but that's it. Um, Jay James said, "I think religion was developed for control." Jay, I believe that religion eventually evolved into that, into control, because I do believe that religion originated because we couldn't answer certain questions. But then, man being man, when human beings realized the power of religion, then it became something that evolved for control. And so that's how I see it, and based on the research and the work that I've done in the area, that's what it looks like to me. Absolutely. A friend of mine, Dave, what's going on, Dave? Dave said, absolutely. I've always believed that gods were created to explain the unexplainable. It is damn 100%. That's how we got gods. That's why we had gods prior to the Abrahamic God, Jesus. That's why we had gods who were named after natural phenomenons. That's why gods represented, lightning and thunder and rain and water and earth and whatever, because we could not explain where these things originated from and where they came to. And so that's where we own that. Um, Number three on the list is laws demand a lawgiver. Again, it's similar to the creation demands a creator, but we're talking about natural laws. So people are saying that if there are natural laws, then there must be an entity that gave these laws. But first of all, these are things that happen in nature. Human beings gave these natural occurrences laws. I mean, the law of whatever, the law of gravity, the law of whatever. We named them that. These are just natural occurrences that, again, we had to be able to put in a box or identify, so we gave names to. There is no correlation or causation between um, the natural laws and a lawgiver being an entity. It makes absolutely no sense. Again, it is something that we make up. It is something that sounds good. It is something that we regurgitate without fully thinking about it whatsoever, and we come up with this stuff. Um, Going back to my whole design demands a designer. It was similar to, again, creation demands creator. This is one that's often used, and people always refer to the human eye, that it is so complex that and it works. Let me get to that in a second. But they said that it is so complex that it had to be designed. Um, that's how evolution works. Evolution says that, okay, if you know anything about evolution, and then I'm not a biologist or scientist, but I do know a little bit about it because this is part of what I do. And it's basic what we've learned in high school and in college for some of us. If you know anything about evolution, as the human body has evolved, things that we may have needed thousands of years ago based on our environment, based on what part of the world we lived in, and now those things no longer become we no longer need those things. Those things seem to those things um stop evolving with us. As we procreate, those things stop. And then we're in an environment where things are needed. Our body evolves to have those things. Let me give you a perfect example. Um, we at one point were had more hair on our bodies, but as we evolved and moved to warmer climates or whatever, we that gene that produced more hair was not needed anymore. And as we procreated, those that came after us had less hair. Um, Somebody said, like the appendix and the spleen. Absolutely. One thing that has developed through evolution that some of us have, some of us don't, is the whole thing about being lactose intolerant. So if you know anything about being lactose intolerant, Africans and many Asians are more lactose intolerant than Europeans. The reason why is because we didn't drink cattle milk like that. We didn't drink that stuff. That wasn't part of who we were. The people who can take the lactose, they developed that because that's what they was part of their diet. And so that evolved with them. So there are many other examples of that. Um, let's see, Amanda, what's going on? Glad to have you with us. Melanated, what is going on? Jacksonville, Florida. Glad to have you. So yeah, so let me get back to the second part about the eye. So I have people tell me that just look at how amazing the body works and how perfect the body is, and it could only be created by a creator because everything fits so perfect. That's a damn lie. That's a damn lie. The body starts to break down at the age of 30. There are people born every day with abnormalities. If this God was so perfect, then why in the hell am I sitting here with glasses on? Why are there so many people that have to wear glasses or need hearing aids or are born with one arm longer than the other, or are born missing a leg or fingers, or have mental issues, brain issues, their brain's not fully developed or whatever? And why does the body start to break down so early? Why can't a limb reconnect itself or whatever? Our bodies are not perfectly made. Our bodies um, are examples, are symbolic of what an evolution would look like. Evolution of the human species would look like, not what a creation from a perfect being would look like. You would think that if a perfect being created something that is supposed to resemble or look like it, that being too would be perfect. Well, we are far from perfect in the human form. We are far from perfect, any of us. Um, so this is what evolution looks like. There are some through evolution. There are some problems that come up. There's some things that don't develop. There's some things that happen in birth, prior to birth. That's part of the whole evolutionary process. More so than being created by a perfect being. Let's see what some of the other comments. Christine said, "Our natural instincts are to question what we don't know or understand. Then we seek to find answers to our questions, and religion is what many use to give them their answers only." Absolutely. Again, I talked about it. David and I talked about it. We talked about how we have religion because we didn't know the answer to stuff, and we couldn't stand not knowing the answer. So that's just part of our makeup. We have to believe that we. Well, let me. Uh, let me break that. Let me take that back. There's a segment. There's a specific group of humans who have believe that they have to know the answers to everything, and if they don't, they will make up or create an answer. There are also a segment of human beings who are good with not knowing the answer to things and just letting things happen. So I'm not going to say all of us, but yeah, uh, another quote unquote um, evidence or more evidence for the existence of the biblical God that some people throw out there is the fulfillment of prophecy. Some of you may have heard this too. I always challenge people who said it. I said, "Well, tell me what prophecy has been fulfilled." But I have two caveats to this when I ask them this. I said, first of all, be specific. Specific, because if your God is who you believe your God to be and who this God is described in the Bible, all knowing, all powerful, then we need some specifics. I don't need to have subjective descriptions of something and then have somebody come back and interpret it and say, yeah, this means he's talking about Russia. We need something descriptive. We need something objective. We need something we can point to. We need something that says, yeah, there, no doubt, this is what was meant. We don't need it to be interpreted. And secondly, that evidence needs to not be self-fulfilling, i.e., Israel. Israel is a self-fulfilling prophecy, meaning that a group of people read the Bible and said, "Oh, okay, we need to do this," and boom, that's how we got Israel in 1948. Um, so those are the two caveats. So I tell anybody, look through the Bible, give me something that is truly fulfilled prophecy. And none of this generic, there would be wars among wars, there would be famine, there would be natural disasters. We've always had all of those. We've always had war since the beginning of mankind. We've always had famine. We've always had natural disasters. We've always had hunger. We've always had violence. We've always had killings and murders. We've always had all of that. As a matter of fact, we happen to be in a time period where we actually have a little bit less war and violence than what we've had in the past. So telling me that the Bible speaks of wars and people turning their back on religion and famine and all these things as a fulfilling as a fulfilling prophecy, that's not evidence. We've always had that stuff. Even before the Bible was written, we had that stuff. So it's really easy for the writers of the Bible to look back and say, "Oh yeah, we've always had war, we've always had famine, we've always had natural disasters. We know these things are going to continue, so let's put that in the Bible as prophecy." That doesn't work. Christine said there are just some things we not ever know, and I am okay with that, and I am too. And it's not, we don't. I don't sit here and tell people that I am right about whether or not God exists or not. That's not even my thing. My thing is this: if you're gonna believe in God, then that's fine. Your personal deal. Know everything that's out there about it as much as you can. But if you're going to um, push other people to believe in this God, if you're going to pass laws and require others to live by what this God is saying that you believe this God is saying, so now you've got to show me evidence, objective evidence that this God is real, and that's where the rub comes in at. I said this in a class last week. I think religion and the belief in a God or a deity or something supernatural, it is fine as long as it's personal. You can do whatever you want. You can believe whatever you want to believe in, and people do. No problem whatsoever. You'll never hear a word out of me. But when you start creating laws that's based on your belief system, or when you start telling people that they should believe or they're gonna burn in hell, when there's norms and things that we have to follow and deal with, those of us who either believe in something else or don't believe anything at all, then that's when it becomes a problem. And so that's why you get people like me who now I'm going to push back because now you're creating laws and you're telling me I need to live a certain way because your God says this. So now you need to prove to me that your God is real and that your God exists. If you're going to require me to live by how you said this God said I should live when I don't believe in this God. So that's the problem. Papa said, "Good evening. What's going on, Papa? Appreciate having you on here." Um, number six, and I kind of should have started with number six because I had an experience this week. I mean, this week dealing with this. Another quote unquote evidence of the existence of this God of a God is people saying that prayers are answered, so that prayers get answered. So I was on social media, and somebody on social media was talking about prayers, something about prayers being answered, and I said, nah, that doesn't that's not evidence of God. And it was like, yeah, God answers prayers. I said, here's the thing: you cannot objectively prove to me that God answers prayers, but I can objectively prove to you that God doesn't answer prayers, and we can do a test right now. If you believe that God answers your prayers, then let's you ask God for $1 million. Pray for $1 million, right? It's not gonna happen. I guarantee it's not gonna happen. You're not gonna wake up in the morning, your bank account is gonna be $1 million in there. So I can objectively prove that God does not answer prayers. It don't even have to be about money. It could be about anything. I say, do you know the number of people who are devout believers, more so than it's just as devout as anybody else, who pray for things to happen and events to happen, and I mean good things that things that are from an integrity standpoint, not greed, but things like heal my child, or don't let my mother pass from cancer, or I need a job so I can pay these bills so I can feed my kids. There are people who are devout believers and they pray for this kind of thing, this kind of stuff every day, all day, and their prayers never get answered. And then finally, thank you, J Jam. Remember to hit the button. Thank you. Yeah, and subscribe, please, and tell all your friends. Uh, and so finally, what I told this person, I said, there is an organization out there called the Templeton Foundation. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Templeton Foundation, but the Templeton Foundation is a very conservative, I want to say religious based organization. I think it is, but it is very conservative, and they've done the most renowned and respected and famous study on prayer that has ever been done. It is a comprehensive study on prayer. And this is a group who would have certainly benefited if there would have been evidence come back to say, yes, prayer works. But at the end of their study, and you can look it up, the Templeton Foundation Prayer Study, you can look it up. And after they did the study, they came back and said that there was no definitive evidence that prayer works. I think they had three different test groups. People who was everybody was praying for the same thing. I think it was a cure. They all had cancer, something to that effect. At least this was one of the studies, and they broke it down into three different groups. They had a group of people who didn't believe in prayer, whatever, and was not getting prayed for. Then they had a group who believed in prayer and was getting prayed for. And then they had a group who didn't know one way or the other, right? And it come to find out that there was no discernible differences between the cure rate of people in either of the groups. And so, but that's just one of the studies. But the studies are more conclusive. I mean, more inclusive than that. They're more widespread than that. But they're just part of it. And so you can look it up yourself. And so I told the guy, I said, so it's evidence. So that's not answered prayer. If you pray for something and that something happens, it is a coincidence. Trust me, it is a coincidence. We can do another study. We can sit here. We can say, okay, your mortgage or your rent is due in 30 days. You can sit in your chair every day, watch television, and pray that you get the money, or you can get up and go to work and not pray, or you can pray and go to work. You're going to get the same results as between the person who gets up and goes to work and the person who prays and goes to work. You're going to get the same results. They're going to work, they're going to get paid, and they're going to be able to pay their mortgage or rent. As a person who sits in there 9.5 times out of 10, because I'm not going to say conclude 100%, but I can almost guarantee you 9.5 times out of 10, the person who just sits there and prays um, that prayer would not be answered. And for that half of 1% who prayer gets answered, quote unquote, why are you serving a God who is selective about who prayers get answered? And how did he or it decide that your prayers are the one that get answered? And how do we even know that this is your God answering your prayer? How do we don't know that this is just a coincidence that you forgot that you overpaid on the bill and you got a check for enough to cover your mortgage or whatever? So we don't know. And so those are things that we talk when we talk about answered prayer or whatever. Um, Christine said that's evidence that you or some other human helped you to get that answer. Most times it's you and your hard work. Yeah, I did this whole thing about people saying, I mean, again, it shows, and I want to be nice here, it shows that people just really don't think things through. How many times have we all heard people say, work without prayer doesn't work? So why do I need to pray if I'm going to do the work anyway? That doesn't make sense to me. He said, well, the reason why God answers your prayer is because you're just praying and you're not working. Well, if I'm going to do the work, I don't need to pray. I don't need God if I'm doing the work. That's why I'm praying because I can't fix it myself, whatever the problem or the issue is. If I can fix it myself, then I don't need to pray. I don't need to ask a supernatural being to intervene if I can fix it myself. If I could get the promotion or if I could get the money or if I could heal myself or whatever it is, then I don't need to pray. It just don't make sense to me. But again, we regurgitate stuff that we hear because it sounds great. When we really think about it, it really doesn't make much sense at all. Um, let's see. Christine said, we just read Christine. Okay. Jay said, we had pastors praying for their church members during COVID, and many of them still died. Absolutely. Every freaking church in the country prayed for their members during COVID. And as a matter of fact, I haven't, I don't know the numbers, but I would almost guarantee you for a number of reasons, but I would almost guarantee you that more church folks died than anybody else, especially African American church folks. For a couple of reasons. First of all, the majority of people in this country are church goers, so I'm sort of cheating there. However, many African Americans who go to church, there is a correlation between going to church and our diet and our physical health. And I wrote about that in my book, which I don't have in front of me, but you can pick it up on Amazon from Save to Sane. I wrote about that briefly in my book. That there's a correlation. So if we know, we remember COVID, people who suffered the most or who end up dying the most were people who already had underlying conditions, diabetes, high blood pressure, and many of these conditions are caused by our diet or the lack of exercise or a combination of both. So I can almost assure you that more people, especially African Americans who are churchgoers, devout members, devout Christians, also end up dying more of those people die. Um, and so Christine said, teach true justice and correction every day. Appreciate it. Thank you. Christine also said 9 people and only 3 likes. Hit that like button. Now it helps with the others to find the broadcast. Sharing is caring. Thank you so much, Christine. Yeah, please, 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 please do that. And I get people who watch this later because all of the comments that I get, some of them, a few of them come from you guys who are on here. You'll write and say, thank you. It was a great show, or you'll add a later comment. But I get a lot of people who watch the show later, and those are usually people who sort of disagree with us, but they won't come on. And then they have these comments, and I answer every last one of them. Every time I get one, I answer. So yeah, Texas God has said, Willie, we have been indoctrinated by parents, society, school, government, and religion. It takes serious critical thinking to break outside of the lines. And that, in a nutshell, is why we have this program, because we want people to engage in critical thought, critical analysis as to why they believe what they believe. Um, because when it's done incorrectly, it is harmful to all of us. It is harmful to society. So I'm not telling you not to believe. I'm telling you to understand why you believe. If you have questions, then follow that journey all the way through. And if you decide that you're going to stay and continue to be part of this religious machine, then do everything that you can to keep it from being harmful to others. And that's all that I ask in this program, and that's why we do this here. Jay said exactly. I've told people The very same thing. Yeah. So this whole and you know, and so people have their own personal experiences. You hear people all the time say, "No, no, you understand? My experience is different." No, it wasn't. No, no, it wasn't. I tell people all the time. I say, I can guarantee you this: there is nobody who's had an experience that is uniquely. It might be unique to them, but no one has ever had an experience that has never happened before. Like no one has said, well, I was cured of cancer and it had 100% mortality rate. Mortality rate, but I was cured. No, it may have had a 95% mortality rate, or it may have had a 98% mortality rate, but you wasn't the first person to survive that. And I guarantee you that people who survived that, the same thing you had, either believed in a different God or didn't believe in a God at all. So they will attribute their survival to either their God or no God at all, or just happenstance, or it wasn't their time to go. There isn't, a car accident, crash, whatever, airplane crash, you survive. You're not the first person to survive a plane crash. There's been others. You're not the first person. Lightning strike, you're not the first. Whatever you can come up with, it is not, you're not the first person and you're not the only person. Now that situation may be unique to you, and that's fine, but that is not objective evidence that your God, the Abrahamic God, exists. It is not. It is not. Um, how I deal with this when I see this and these things happen, when people say, I should have been dead, or this happened to me and there was nothing but the grace of God that saved me, all this other stuff. I simply say it wasn't your time. It just wasn't your time. When it's your time to go, it's our time to go, it's our time to go. It just wasn't your time. Because when it's your time, ain't no amount of miracles gonna stop it. So that just wasn't your time to go. And I know that may sound, funny. I mean, it's sad to some people, but that's just what it is. So all this stuff about miracles, he saved me. And then here's the thing: if you go through something tragic and this so-called God saves you, why did this God not prevent the tragedy from happening to you to begin with? So you have people. This happened to me, but by the grace of God, I'm still here. But I got, I'm paralyzed on one side of my body, or my hearing is gone, or I can't see. I can only see out of one eye, or whatever. But God saved me. What kind of loving Father is this that's going to allow these things to happen to you to begin with? If that's the case, I mean, any of us here who have loved ones, whether it be our kids or our spouses or our parents, nieces and nephews, like I do, I don't want anything bad to happen to them. And if there's anything that I can do to prevent anything bad from happening to them, I'm going to do that. There are certain lessons. My nephew years ago, he would call and he would say, Unc, I can't pay my bills and my water bill or whatever. Can you loan me some money? And I would say, son, you're 25 years old. You're not married. You don't have any kids. How many jobs you got? Well, I work one job. That's okay. Get a second job. So the lesson in that is that you have the ability to get a second job to pay your bills. That's the lesson, right? But there also have been times where he needed something, and I was like, okay, let me help you out, because this is more. This goes beyond teaching you a lesson. This now endangers you. So if I can do anything to help you, then I'm going to help you. So there's a difference with that. So yeah, so I don't. Yeah, that whole prayer thing or whatever, it just does not work for me. Jay says, sadly enough, many people need for their God to exist. Absolutely, and we talked about that in class, Jay. Um, I've come to, and I always knew this, but I am comfortable enough to admit that there are some of us who just need God, who need a God, who need a deity. Uh, there are people who need, and it sounds crazy and it's scary to me, but there are people who need the existence of this God to be real, because it keeps them from doing foul stuff. It keeps them from killing someone or raping someone or murdering someone or whatever it is, because they're fearful of this God or their God. And that's I think that's sad. I don't need a God to keep me from harming other people. But there are people that do. Also, there are people, especially the older generation, who need this God to exist as a form of hope. as a form of because their life has been so tragic and so hard. And I completely get it. I trust me, I get it. I had a mother who had a very hard life, a very difficult life, and we know the history of our people here. Um, on this land. So absolutely, I get it. We had our ancestors, our parents and foreparents and great grandparents, whatever. They needed this God to exist. They need this idea of heaven to exist because it's the only thing that many of them had that kept them going. And without that, many of us wouldn't be here. So I appreciate that and I understand that absolutely. Um, However, there is a when we know better, we do better. That's not the situation that many of us are in now. There are still people who still need this God to exist and heaven to exist because it still provides them hope that they may not have in their current situation. And I understand that. And again, that for most of those people is very personal. And so that's not the problem. That's not the issue at all. So I don't want anybody ever to say. So if your personal relationship with God is just that, it's personal, and I don't have an issue with that whatsoever. But just don't try to force me to believe what you believe, and don't try to force me to follow the laws and rules and norms and whatever, because you said that your God said that we all should be doing that. That's something totally different. And so yeah, Christine again said, exactly true. They're nothing without their beliefs, Jay. Yeah, absolutely. Their whole entire existence is wrapped up in the existence of this God, is wrapped up in their belief in the existence of this God. Yeah, absolutely. Texas Goddess said, I wish there was um, a good to answer my prayers. Oh, you wish there was a God to answer your prayer. I wish it was too, right? And one that would really answer it. Yeah, absolutely. Again, we all would be much better off. Yeah. Um, Melanated said we need to start forming non-believers assemblies all across the world. I agree. I totally. I was reading something the other day about something similar to that, and um, in my graduate thesis that I'm writing, I cite a gentleman who wrote a book, and he's teaching at the University of California in Santa Barbara. And so he did a lot of research, and he went to um, organizations and places where non-believers gather. The thesis of his book, though, is about why non-believers basically uh, gravitate toward systems and processes that they ran away from with the church. So a lot of these organizations that they are part of now resemble um, the very churches and religious organizations that they ran away from. So that's sort of the premise of his book. But I certainly agree with you, Melanated. That I mean, there are organizations, there's Black non-believers, but I would also love to see um, just like what we're doing here, just having conversation, and not necessarily over the internet, but groups that get together in cities or towns or whatever, of non-believers, and we get together and we socialize with one another, bounce ideas off of one another, and just basically be there for a support system, because it's although, and I did a presentation earlier today that I was reading right before I came on here, the results of it. It's basically a competition. It's a 3 minute speech about your thesis, and mine was about nuns, NONES, us. Those nuns are people who are not part of a church or not part of an organized religion. Some of them may still believe in God, but the other extreme, the other side of it is those people who are atheists. So it's everything in between. And so I did a 3 minute presentation about that today, and I just found out that I advanced to the next to the finals, and so I can win money. So I can win some money if I win. So yeah, so that was good. But anyway, um, so that's part of what we were talking. So I was saying that, and I lost my train of thought, but I was saying that to say that yeah, we should have these organizations. We should come together. The social aspect is big, but support is also big. It is hard enough finding those of us who are non-believers. Thanks, Amanda. It is harder to finding those of us who are non-believers. That's one. It is 10 times as hard finding non-believers who are African Americans who will admit it. Now we will find people all day long that don't go to church, but black people are afraid to admit that they don't believe in this Abrahamic God. We would not let it go. We just won't. We won't admit that publicly. I believe, and I say this as part of my research. I think that there are more black agnostics and black atheists out there than the numbers show. The numbers show that we're about, they're about 3%, 3 to 4%, and I'll be perfectly honest with you. Um, I don't say that I'm an atheist. Uh, I don't dispute people when they call me one for a couple of reasons. Number one is because it's useless. Black people, if you don't believe in Jesus, then they consider you atheist anyway. You could believe in everything else, but if you don't believe in Jesus, they consider you atheist. Secondly, because I don't have a problem with people thinking that I am. I it doesn't. It is really it really does not bother me one iota. However, because of my upbringing and because of my 40 plus years of indoctrination, um, I am from the elk where we believe that the word atheist is a bad word, and I'm getting away from that absolutely. Like I said, I don't have problems with people calling me that or saying that about. But often when I tell people, I said for me personally, no, I don't believe in any God that we've created that we know of, including the Abrahamic God. But I do leave open the possibilities that I could be wrong and there could be something else out there beyond me. But I don't care. It doesn't matter in my daily life. It wouldn't matter one way or the other for me. And so that's where I am. And like Papa Lance said, yeah, I believe in me. That's not to be narcissistic. That's not to be self-centered or whatever. But I believe in me. Um, because I at least I think I can control me for the most part. I know what me is going to do, and if me failed, it is on me. So yes, I believe in me. Um, so Melanated said we can start with a non-believers Facebook group, and then we can form one starting here in Jacksonville, Florida. Oh, great! There are non-believer groups I think on Facebook, on social media. Most of those are white, but there are black non-believers group, black atheist groups or whatever. Um, I, I, we got like 2 minutes. Let me just say this: if we do start one of those groups on social media, I just whoever the administrators are, we just need to be, and I'm gonna say this: we just need to be careful about um, who we admit, what goes on, what is said, those type things. We don't want to turn this into something that it was never meant to be. And I'll just leave it like that. I'm being nice today. I don't know why, because I've seen these things go from a really organic beginning or origin, something that was sincere. They really meant to be what they wanted to be, and it mushroomed or it devolved, not evolved, but it devolved into something that you no longer wanted to be a part of. So yeah. But I'm 100% with you, Melanated. We should definitely do that. You can start it, and I'll certainly join. It's better to be an honest atheist than a deceptive Christian. Hey, 100%. Absolutely. You get no argument from me. You get no argument from me. Uh, it is my people just I mean you can and I told somebody this one day. I said you can be you can kill somebody in our community. You can do almost anything. I want to draw the line at rape because we tend to be pretty hard on people that rape people in our community, but you can do almost anything else. Um, but when you tell your people, you tell your black people that you are an atheist, they completely dismiss you. I mean, it's like you got three heads. They immediately start thinking that you're the Antichrist and that you're evil and that you're, all of this. So yeah, yeah, so that's part of it, but that's fine. I'm good with it. So yeah, Amanda said, I'm reading these last comments and then it's time to get up out of here. Amanda said, as soon as a person act out, block. Absolutely. I agree 100%. I'm with you. Don't give people chances, block immediately. Yep. We set guidelines, we set the rules, we set this is what we're all about. This is what our conversations are going to center around and focus on. And anything outside of these guidelines, you are no longer welcome, and you will be kicked out immediately and not allowed to come back in. So yeah, I'm with you 100%. Christine said exactly. Ask them questions before becoming a part of the group. An administrator can remove posts that don't apply. Oh, good point. Absolutely, good point. Yep, that too. So yeah, so y'all, y'all work on that. Let me know. I'm there. I'm in it. I just don't have time to be the administrator of it, but I will be there for sure. Absolutely. So that is it for me. Appreciate this. Thank y'all so much. You can send me comments later about other things that you want to talk about, but we're gonna start this series and we're gonna get into details about what evidence, quote unquote, exists for this God over the next few weeks or the next few times that we come together and join each other. But I certainly appreciate you all. Tell a friend, subscribe if you haven't. Tell your friends to subscribe. The channel is continuously growing. I have almost 400 organic subscribers. I had a friend, a person, I'll say this in close. I had a person who said that, listen, I can get you 1,000 subscribers, through a system. These people wouldn't be people that are, these people won't be real people or whatever, or people who actually tune in here. And I said, nah, I want everybody on here, everybody who's subscribed to be real organic subscribers, people who really want to be here. I'm not in this for the money. It would be great at some point we get the numbers that we need in order to that we can make money here on it. But that's not the primary reason. As a matter of fact, that was never the reason to begin with, to be honest, because I never thought that I would even get 400 people. So all organic. I think we're right at four. I think we like 398 or 390 last time I looked, which was I think last week or so. But thank you all so much. Take care, stay safe, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Till next time.